What way is it to be done? What kind of question's that? I don't know. I just said it, that's all. That's the only thing that happened is I said it. Aside from that, no attachment from for the ongoing really. So anyway, is it gonna be one of those videos where you get everything going and then play music and all that kind of stuff? I'm needing to want to, but at this moment of the DIY, where is it going? How much effort do you put into stuff that doesn't, it either does or doesn't count for anything in the long run and everything? It does something. You build up the rapport of figuring it out. Stool here. I thought to paint it baby blue. Pretty nice. It's kind of a homely value of merit. The display of a stool top. To repaint it again would be good. It'd be a good endeavor. So I know. You can say I might say so myself. The interim of the mind exported into the material world and everything like that. The cleanliness of the situation involves running around and rushing around very often. Many people don't even get to cook in their own homes. They just order out a lot of the time. It's a similar thing with items, stacking and storing and all that kind of thing. If anyone's ever, I never, you ask, I'm trying to act like anyone's intrigued or anything by things I say. So it's bizarre. I don't try to have that arrogance of assuming there is any interest in my ongoings, but I like to entertain time to time and all that kind of thing, and to try to be honest. It's a strange statement to make, but I always think there's some internal kind of commensurate that needs to be on at all times to regard the honesty we have amongst ourselves or to ourselves truly, Otherwise, a human might be able to, they splay, and they exaggerate their own kind of exaggeration. Does that make sense? It doesn't to me, but that's okay. I'm coming into this room again here and just sitting and talking, so fine by me. It's a strange world today, however, where this usually, what's weird is that you get people together in one room and then people are going like this. And now I'm here in a room having a discussion with people who are either looking at this or looking at this. But people used to get into a room and then discuss things with one another. If you leave these things in a different room and gather people into a room together, they will act like human beings. I don't know how long or if ever there has been people acting like human beings, but in the rare occasions that people do, they try to gather together, create an intent, and make great things or get as close as they can to achieving something. Think of the monumental formations of great architecture out there, beautiful vastness of buildings, and the decorum and all this and all that stuff I'll pretend to know anything about. I don't know anything about it. I'm just impressed by it, and I know that it took a lot of faculty of temperament, for people to have one goal and to come together on a goal. And today, everything seems frazzled. Everything seems very, very frazzled and really self-centered. We're finding any cohesive movement of anyone co-creating something that will last into the future and people will look back at and be in awe by. I don't know how much of that kind of thing's going on in this generation or any generation of my own timeline, so we'll see what I have to say. What the heck's even going on here? You want to think about these efforts put in where the goal point I got a little tick on me, a little baby one. Yeah, I was outside yesterday for a long while. And I definitely, these clothes I'm wearing were the ones I put them back on. I changed out of them when I got home, but then here they are again. I don't mind what I'm wearing. This is not a fashion channel. Why am I into altering clothes and stuff like that? I don't know. I think I like things that fit all right and everything like that. I'm not into that world though. I'm not into that world of fashion. I like stuff. You know, I like making things my own because I can't help to do so. I can't help but to keep doing so. But it's just one of those things that happens. You get done with making something and then you're on to the next thing because you just need to be busy. I think that it's probably the lack of taking up any habits like smoking or anything like that, or drinking or anything. I think I did realize too that it really is true in a way that whoever the person really is inside does come out through the alcoholic and everything like that. You know, I would have a hell of a lot of things to say if it came to the as a AAI and non family members of alcoholic things or whatever. There's a whole world of that in my life. So if you see me ever trying to contribute any optimism in any way or anything like that, it seems like against all odds that I would have any optimism internalized at any rate and everything like that. I feel paranoid about any flack coming my way, but I accept any that does come because I know that that's the world we live in today. You can just take your own internal garbage and try to spew it onto other people by dragging. There's this equality of dragging people down to a low level today, you know. There's like an equilibrium of this tension that people carry inside, and they just throw a weight onto somebody and say, hey, catch this, deal with this. And I'm just kind of like, all right, whatever, you know. It'd be a little bit like, be conscious about that. That's probably going to happen all the time, wherever you go, anywhere, you know. I'm one of those kinds of people that usually just I try to do my own thing and just get away from the fluster of it all. But man, you wind up in it anyway, you know, a lot of the time. But it has had some memory of a free kind of exonerating experience of being someplace that I don't even know where the hell I was, but I was driving way far out. And I realized again to not really even speak of some of these places that I was driving out towards. I guess that's it. I want to tell experiences, but there's certain places and there's certain things, you know, places one could go and things that one could do. I don't want to talk like that. You sound like one of those self-back-patting gurus or whatever. One might be able to do what one says, blah, blah, blah. And then they're just eating and blah, they're getting all huge and everything. And they're like, I know thou this, listen to me. A lot of the times, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. And I'm lucky to be surviving and all that kind of thing. So, but one thing I want to say is that I was on my way to this place that I know is a wonderful place, but it's really far, and I'd have to have a working car, not just a working car, the money to get there, and everything like that. But I could chill out in life. There were things that I was seeing for the very first time, but one message to be aware of and to beware of is anytime you visit anytime you go to a place again, you bring something with you that is a real conjured omen, I guess you'd say. You bring an omen with you. There's an idea of egregores and omens on this planet and everything, but the thing that you bring with you anytime you visit a place twice is expectation. And if you always expect a place to be as good the second time, or you expect the experience to relive itself, that is creating something that will devour your appreciation for the experience. So if you can just try to be mindful about that, because I would think about going back to this place very far off, out on the road, and I didn't have a car. I was on my motorbike, which I have a filter being delivered to. I decide my method of this, the way I do things, is that I could have had something come the next day at an auto store for a motorbike filter for a 1980 bike, so the parts are here and there. I mean, for my bike, there are actually more parts available, you know, in the regard of being able to keep it functionable easier than other bikes around that are, I guess, that old at this point. But I really enjoy being able to have them come in a few days later, and I'm getting 2 filters for the price of one, so that I'll have another one set aside and ready to go. Somehow I feel like I'm saving. It's one of those things, like the immediate resolve that you might have versus just waiting a little bit and having it happen that way. So, but that bike is out there, and it's spending a few days without any oil in it because I went to switch a new filter into it, and as it turned out, that filter I had wasn't the right size. So it was in the packaging that would have advertised it as the correct size. It was very bizarre. I opened it up, and it was from a reused place, so I don't know what was going on with that. But it's without oil right now. Obviously, you're not going to start it up if there's no oil in it. I hadn't had a bike sit without any actual oil in it, though, for like ever. I just put the new oil in, but not going to do that without a new filter. But I was taking that bike, not a car. I was taking my motorbike out, and I was on these roads, and they just were wherever. What is this all going on around me with these little towns? Some are just so tiny. Some of these towns are so tiny, and I have to find a fueling station to refuel. And I had this little tiny gas container strapped to the back of the motorbike luggage and everything. It was like bungee corded there just in case I ran out, and I had that happen once. I ran out of fuel, but I had my little canister there, and I think I ran out on my way to find a gas station on one of these off-roads, and it says, go this way and you'll find a gas station. Sometimes it's like, boom, it's right there, and you'll got all the other stores and everything around, and you'll be all good to go. Other times, you're in these really tiny towns, and you have to drive, and you're going further and further and further, and my fuel, I don't have a fuel gauge on that motorbike. I don't have a fuel gauge. I just have to estimate what gas price it's going on at the time versus how many miles I'm racking up on the triptometer. I always reset the gas to 0.00000 when I fill up for fuel, and typically I used to hit around a certain number. I don't know how much it was, because the tank is a little peanut shaped tank. All those numbers had reset from my mind. Actually, I don't like ballparking things where I know I might be actually off, so I'm not even going to mention the miles per gallon and the fuel efficiency and everything. I just know with the little peanut-sized tank of the CM400, which is what I took out to where I liked to go, was a gas tank where I needed a separate fuel tank, a fuel jar or whatever, with me, and I kept going and going and going looking for the fueling station and everything like that, and I ran out of gas, filled it up with my spare tank I had, and eventually found it. But it was seeing some of these places along the way that put a spot of sanctity in my being. And I think I am a traveler is what I am as a person. Not that you really care. I don't know. You never know who the hell you're talking to. I'm talking to YouTube. It's a bit psychotic, I think, actually, the notion of YouTube, because you're not in the same room as the people you're discussing things with. There's this ego bent that anything you're saying is actually interesting at all to begin with, and everything like that. And the reciprocation of conversing isn't there. It's it's fucked up. It's not good. It's not good, but it's something we all have to do now. It's bizarre, but you know, because I like a conversation where I have rapport. You know, I'd love to actually have some rapport back to what I'm saying, to engage in a conversation and everything like that. But I'll just try to tell things as they come to me. You know, but it felt kind of like right on with where things were supposed to be in my life, as being of the moment and in the moment, and engaging with, you know, the people around me that I would meet coming into like a new town, and having this excitement. And other people get excited when you're, you know, traveling at times, because they want to like share what's going on with the places around them and engage. You know, of course not always all the time, I don't know, some people are trying to lure you into the latest con. You know, I had people drug my food before, and I had to get the hell out of a place really quick. Some person pulled a gun out and set it on a table. They pulled a wallet out and set it right on a table. That was a jackass, though. It was this person involved in nefarious situations, and, you know, whatever. I was like on a long ride and tired, and thought I was having a conversation with somebody I was getting along with. I was realizing he was trying to be some sort of merry prankster type or whatever. People that drug other people. Those are those words they say in those videos too, by the way. You're watching the crime of the day, blah blah blah, and whatever, and that blank out words and everything. I just said about 2 sentences of words that are supposed to be blanked out, but I'm talking about life experiences though. So how much reality? They're like reporting wars and everything, and then actually they show war casualties on primetime TV for the first time ever and everything, and people are always like, how much reality should we really actually expose the human mind to? You know, do we want to flagrantly exist in a padded amount of safety? You know, so. You know, not everyone's going to be eager to share brightness or anything like that. So obviously you have to be careful for yourself and live on survival mode. Of course, that's an exponent of every single moment in our lives, to be honest. You know, this the privilege of comfort isn't so specific, really, because, you know, it depends on how close to fight or flight mode you're willing to get, because at any moment one of these trees outside of the house could come toppling onto the roof or whatever. And there's a statement about people with PTSD who, while they might be in a frantic and a fright all of the time, no, they're in the mode of preparation. They're prepared for anything about to go on. And then while other people might have an exasperating overreaction, the person with PTSD or the person with high anxiety will actually be able to partner into resolve, while other people immediately try to escape a situation. So that's just my take on it anyway. It's just me trying to enter into wondering about that kind of thing. I'm thinking about where I am sometimes when I go into like the moments of the unknown and everything. But I'm a person that's meant to be moving, and I found some of the most happy moments of my life seeing new scapes of towns and places and adventure. And it really truly is something that, you know, I'm meant to do. And you think about the psychological torment that happens if you're corralled and cornered and weighted into a life where you don't get to move so freely, and you're stuck in one of the most expensive counties on the northeast of America, maybe, I don't know, maybe in the country, I think, as far as property taxes and stuff goes, you know. And you get trapped in that scenario, and then your worldview or whatever becomes constricted, and you start to think that the rest of the world is probably like less laid back and so protective and more into a fight or flight state of mind. So when I was out that way, however, and I didn't even have a car, I was on my motorbike, I still was able to just ride and relax through and take in all of these scenes and take your helmet off and just walk around for a few after fueling up somewhere, drive a bit a ways, stop and walk somewhere, and it was just very fun, and I liked that a lot. And I think I'm starting to get back a little bit of who I am as a person after going through a whole lot of shit and having that tooth get, what I say, ripped out and all that kind of thing. So I don't have that nerve damage crap anymore. I feel pretty good, but sleep schedules and everything like that, I don't know. Some people are nighttime people, and I definitely think I am a nighttime person. I was out last night and I saw the moon being a guiding force, and you hear the sounds of night animals and everything, and certain words and certain ways of writing and thinking come to be a lot differently than daytime thinking. So anyway, was there a subject I was supposed to be speaking about or anything? Was it about painting this stool? Because I don't even have the correct paint to match into this or anything. I'm just stopping in here for a moment, actually. So, yeah. And trying to think of good decisions when it comes to recording and everything like that. This is the weirdest world for me, to be honest. Like, I don't expect there to be much I expect more anonymous insults, to come into anything that I do, because I'm not writing on matching, like, some sort of style that has its own thing already going or whatever. I find all these influences of old film. That was remind me again in the future, though, to talk about this, because I was just thinking about like films like the Phantom of the Opera and the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and then like the concept of werewolves, and I was thinking about that psychological anomaly of being a misfit to tradition in a way that doesn't seek to do so, and you find yourself, there is a form of being tortured for having who you are as a person not co-align with the games everybody else play, and I just I guess I can relate to those occult origins of early theater and where those fables come from. I'm always extremely intrigued by the mind of the nighttime being forced to survive in the day and everything. So if there's anything to set out to do, it'd be to create some sort of lyric mixed with a dissonance of strings and sounds and samples and everything. But if you speak about such things, then you have to deliver unto doing so and everything. So yeah, it's harder to find encouragement in this world than it is to find people that want to take their own flack out onto other people, though. And encouragement will coast somebody and it will lift them up, and then flack will be something like, flack is something that people carry around like a stork, only they're not delivering anything of a experience of birth like the storks that deliver the babies and everything as a concept. It's like these flack birds fly around through society, and these flack birds have these like little anvils or whatever wrapped up in a wreath, and they just like, they go flack and then bam, and then they're gone and off to the next. And that's what people do when they come by and they try to be insidious and everything like that. And one good thing about having that happen, it's not a good thing, there isn't really, you can try to make lemons out of shit. Well, I don't know what the hell the saying is. There's all these sayings, people say them. A lot of these sayings come from people traveling by boat, or a lot of these sayings come from fisher people, if you think about a lot of the vernacular of the world. I'm really going to reel that in. I can't think of any examples, but if you have enough people drop the flack on you or whatever, though, you just tune it out and become numb to it after a while or whatever. You don't actually like start to like lower your opinion of yourself in a way. You can criticize people that are off sometimes or whatever, you know, they're like they're like affecting things in a vicious sort of way. But if you criticize somebody basically who is like the Phantom of the Opera or a character of like the Hunchback of Notre Dame or whatever, though, that's just it's attacking somebody that's the expression of living who really is just trying to just make it through surviving in a circumstance of basically like having a different rift and everything, you know. So yeah, so I don't know, there's just a reason I like fables quite a lot, and if I could be mindful of like my creative output, it would be fables and really old story writing and everything. Just I don't know. I'm fascinated by things like Samaria and the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Dogon tribe, and I really think Göbekli Tepe is extremely fascinating, and it's fun for me, but it's very hard. You can't really see yourself like engaging in any career or any steadfast earning when you're walking that line between the night and the day, because it's not very visceral. You're not going to be making like marketing statistics, and you're not going to be upping any number of anything. You're engaged in that fine line of like this lunar light and everything, and it seems to be the only, you know, you can become successful in that territory of thought if you're able to exploit something. Mostly it's looks, you know, it's people in that territory of doing well. They basically find people who like, we'll go on to that subject another time, but you know, it's turning the sacral into a commodity, and I myself, I get too affected by reacting to that when I witness it. I wish I could just like move on, but it does bug me sometimes where things that I feel like I've studied for a long while, you know, become commodified, and it's like somebody will see something you've been interested in for a long time, and they'll come up, they'll see that it's hot right now, and they'll take a subject matter and they'll just like use it and then be done with it. Meanwhile, there are certain people that have been born into things and they can't help but have that as part of their life, and they have to deal with what you bear as a consequence of that subject matter, where the people that will take that, turn it into a commodity, they don't go through, you know, they do call it the dark night of the soul, and it's basically just going into the terrain of your subconscious and seeing things and dealing with things, and trying to, you know, analyze a very big deal of serious business that goes on, that a lot of people end up incorporating a death urge habit to not ever have to view or face or confront in their lives ever. So in order to not have to face those territories of the dark night of the soul, that's where, you know, the habits come in. People will start smoking and taking this up and doing that, or they'll have habits that are abusive behaviors emotionally. You know, they'll affect things outside of themselves in a way that alleviates always having to resist seeing what's going on within. And you know, for the whole, you know, tree of life or whatever system you're studying, it'll be known as the astral territory and everything like that. And it's just, you know, these reflections that exist that can be haunting and startling and really be reenacted in those, you know, old plays, you know, and those stories like the Hunchback of Notre Dame and the Phantom of the Opera and all the tales of vampires and werewolves and everything. It's just some sort of personality offshot that happens, and it eventually, if not kept in check, develops into things. And you know, my life situation, like, you know, it is existent in today's world, but today's world is so, it's so exonerated in spectacle going on all the time. We have distractions around all the time, where things that are self changes that are needed to have a, you know, healthy so-called civilization, you'll find people being able to make excuses for stuff that they need to keep in check. So that's where a lot of extreme narcissism and arrogance and self-worship comes to be. There was a good form of having the fear of God within a person, depending on how spiritual they actually wanted to be, or how in tune with the concept of what they call God they actually could be, because it creates this middle ground where people do not become such self-worshippers as they are today, where no matter how gross of a personality a human might carry around with them, there's actually going to be tons and tons of people that are going to support that anyway, or they're going to give a kind of like one of those boxed quotes. There is a boxed quote that you could repost on social media for any kind of thing that you would have otherwise need to have kept in check, and it's this gross, mean-spirited behavior that'll take a word or a viewpoint, it'll change the way it sounds, and then they'll excuse themselves for treating other people in a vicious sort of way. And there's no way that it hadn't always been ongoing. It's just a new expression of it, with social media being the norm today and everything. But, you know, I don't know what that was all about. Is that getting anybody anywhere, or are we getting in more trouble trying to follow these roots that go underneath the surface? That might be a way also to look at it. And I'm just practicing trying to explain these things anyway, so, you know, given more time to do so, maybe people can, maybe at least I can start going somewhere with it. But yeah, I guess that's another way of trying to explore that world between the day and the night, is you are actually, instead of being on the surface level of things, you're going under the root system of any tree or plant or organism, and following down through there. And it's a lot, you have to kind of arm yourself more, I suppose, or be more prepared for that walk in which you're going to take. I think that's one more thing, just to, I don't know, just to add, because I'm quite tired of talking this much at this time. I'm going to end this video in a few, hopefully. But I think it's like the journey of Hermes, you know. I kind of link with that quite a bit in my life. I don't know. I didn't think I'd reach that point of having any hope left, though. You know, but you have to anyway. You feel like you're up against the damn world sometime, and you have people come and try to slam you down for stuff you do, which doesn't affect their own life. But that's one of those flax that drops on you, you know, that people try to do just so you feel worse, so you have less hope in yourself. And it's weird to think there's people out there that want to make other people feel that way. But people can smell you out, man. Like, once that happens, you get many people doing that, so you just find a way to diffuse from that. I think the idea of, like, Hermes or Thoth or anybody making that journey through the underworld and then, like, finding themselves back on the surface again, it used to be the tradition where they're doing that for other people, so that there's a lesson that could be retold by the time they get back to the surface again. You go and you find something and you bring that information back, and you hope to be able to translate that language to the language of the people, and people would take a value to what you brought back. Now you go and you can journey along that path and come back, and people don't care, or they're very pushy. So I guess, and it goes to the idea of the shaman, I suppose. But it feels weird for me to talk about these subjects, because I thought about them a lot, especially before things went really sour in my life. Somehow I still have hope in my life. It's fucked up, right? I thought about these ideas enough, and I've watched YouTube in podcasts and read books about these ideas of the shaman and the inner voyage and the dark night of the soul and everything. And it was actually very popular for a while too. And then people got Occupy Wall Street happened, and then all these sub niches started to go at war with one another, and I can't believe so many people fell for it. And you don't know how much trouble I'll get into if any of these subgroups find myself criticizing them. You know, that they're all basically going to some war of the psyche with one another. But they fell for it. They got hooked. I feel a bit ashamed in people that I thought would have known better who ended up winding up with this thing. And it was they say they're pro this, but it means they're very anti this. And I think if you're anti male, which is very popular to attack masculinity in today's world, and that's going to get me even deeper for people dropping the flack on me or whatever. But for me, that is a human being creating a war with a part of their own brain hemisphere. I'll just put it at that. You could go a lot deeper into that. There's a lot more to be said about that. Am I the one to be saying anything? Am I the one to say it about that? I don't know. I'd probably have to reread notes I'd taken. That's another thing too, man. It's like you try to find things to speak about and insights to have that are supposed to guide us along a better path. But then you look at your own life circumstance and it's just like, oh God, man, look at all this stuff I'm going through. Do I have a place of posture in my own life to carry information out to anybody else? You know? And then you look high up on the rung of things, and it's basically people that are in powerful positions of politics who are there because of blackmail. And that's true. That's extreme truth, and it's not anything new in any culture or civilization. But, you know, that's how it goes. There's probably some other idea I was supposed to tie out through this, but that's all right with me. I'm just trying to engage back into bringing out the things that I feel are meanings of this existence, you know. Maybe that's it too, the idea of somebody that goes and collects information and brings it back. It's not valued anymore. You're gonna find people that are like, it's more of a celebrity worship in every facet now. It's kind of like a celebrity worship in every little gear of thought, unless you just drop out from the web and you just drop out from social media altogether. And then you find people that are like doing activities like woodworking or cabin building and carpentry and all these kind of things. But I don't know if I got anywhere with that idea or thought or not. I'll have to think about it. Sometimes you don't have enough time to think about that kind of stuff though, because you're just needing to survive, you know. But it's weird being in that world then, I suppose, of feeling more like almost an observer of this world more than a participant, you know. I think there's some people here that feel this kind of like presence of being where it's like we've been here several times again and again and again, and you're just kind of like, all right, I'm here again. Here's this civilization thing again. Here's this world of people that are all so sure about their ideas that they're willing to go to war with one another and be arseholes to one another and, you know, blame everything on this and that. Today's imbalance is the hatred of the patriarchy, and it's going to screw people up pretty good in the long run. And that's another thing too. I'm talking about I'm kind of jostling about it. The idea I'm going to be in so much trouble for talking about this. I'm going to be, you know, people are really going to be, you know, kind of flustered at, I'm going to even say this at all. But I think you hone into a truth the more you find the present collective upset that you're bringing something up, and they're afraid to admit that something needs to change if they feel that hostile towards such a concept as the patriarchy, because they're going to lose out quite a lot on very needed foundations of something that you're not only supposed to find in your own local tribe, you know, your local tribe branch, whatever that might be, but something that's internal in yourself, and it's creating idiocy and vulgarity. And vulgarity can never be classy. Vulgarity and grotesque obsession can try to excuse itself into seeming stylish or seductive or anything like that. But beyond all of the seduction is, you know, something that internally doesn't have its foundation worked out too well. Well, I got to work on my own foundation and everything too, so I'm trying to get my state of life better. I really, if I can't line up with some sort of remote work somehow or whatever, where the way that my hours work, you know, some people can be up at like the hours of like 11 at night to like 7 in the morning, maybe all the way up to 11 a.m. You really can put your conscious into some of the things that you're doing, and I think that's how I am as a person. Like if I had a remote job where I could do writing and just be wherever I'm at and everything, I would put the hours in, the effort in. And there are those things in your life too, where you are so entranced into what you're working on that you know that you should be sleeping, but you're like, no, I'm going to keep myself up doing this 2 more hours or whatever, and then you finally just pass out because you need to sleep and stay alive and everything. But if you're getting ready to do something where you keep yourself up at night all night and you're trying to sleep and you're just your soul is ravaging something within yourself because you have a destiny in your life and you're fucking it up because the world's telling you to survive doing this bullshit shit. And I've had years where I know that you know you're gonna get that survival stuff, you know, so you can barely stay alive and barely survive, and you're just like laying there and you're just like then you end up keeping yourself up for a whole night and staying up for a whole day. Eventually you'll get a nap and everything like that, but it's not where you're doing any work that is something you're so eager to do that eventually you need sleep. You're actually like your sense of self is fighting off getting any good rest because you're not actually satisfied with what it is that you're doing. And I am in my way of being in this fine line between that and hoping to figure that out. But yeah, where I am though, it's very difficult to ask or to be lined up with or find any help or any assistance with so many different things. And I was in that place of giving up on myself quite deeply. Even talking about it now is something that's a lot better. Trying to put words to it, maybe places that other people aren't so easy to find words for, you know. So what is that, a motivation speech? It could be, I guess. But anyway, I do have to get around to doing quite a lot of things. All the bugs are out, all the insects are out. I bet you a lot of salamanders are out at this time of being. So anyway, that's my vlog. I'm done with it. I'm just gonna end the video like that. That's the vlog. There you go. Thank you.